Hi, today I want to talk about the development of the duff in terms of material. We've seen in page duff 45, 46, all these kinds of duffing, 47, a lot of talks about muksa, muksa. But we don't have a handbook. We just have a lot of discussions. And I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it be nice to have a handbook? So Michelle even mentioned something where we should go and we can look something up. There's very good handbooks for children, which are helpful actually. And all these kind of handbooks are necessary. Why not in the Gemara? Why just discussion after discussion with assumptions? So what I'm going to suggest is that law wasn't always like that. This is one point in law in time. And there were laws that were different before, and there's laws that provide a certain procedure and a manner of presentation afterwards, and we have to compare it to the Roman law. So I'm going to look at why there are no handbooks, and pre-Mishnah, Mishnah and Braitot, Gemara, and then I'm going to go to Rome and look in the Roman law books to see how they do things, because that's what historians do. We normally look to see, we compare other people around the same time to see how they're doing some things that could be similar, and their procedures and methodologies. So the first thing I want to talk about simply is Mishnah. Mishnah Rishonah. In the Talmud, you have that word come up, Mishnah Rishonah, Mishnah Rishonah, Mishnah Rishonah. And that appears to be Mishnah of a certain Tanaim, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar, and these kinds of people put together their own Mishnayot, their own collections in their own Beit Midrash, and they learned that way. And that's why many times you have discussions. I took it from here. I heard it over here. I brought it from Eretz Yisrael, because that's in fact what happened. There was movement, and there was people who were bringing ideas, physically bringing ideas, and that's how they taught things then. Then after that, the Mishnah is put down, of course, in the 3rd century, and the Braitot, which are extraneous, and of course, our wonderful Gemara that we're learning, supposedly, every day. I haven't done my daf today. Don't say anything. All right, but then also, where are the little helpful compendia? So they don't come along in any significant way until Spain. We have to wait until the Alphas in the 11th century, and the 12th and the 13th, of course, sees the greatness of Maimonides' Rambam. France doesn't do that. Rashi doesn't do that. Tosafot don't do that. That's not how they learn. They learn with a dealing and thinking and remarking on the daf, as we see on the daf. But then Spain starts to compile organizational texts so that everybody could learn the daf in an organized way. It took a long time to do that. Now, what was happening in the Roman period at this time? They also had many, many laws that they put together. They also had a kind of a Mishnah, let's say, and they also had material like this. But the big lawmaker and the big person who introduced change was somebody named Justinian. Now, Justinian has a mosaic, and this is what the Emperor Justinian of the 6th century CE, who ruled the Eastern Empire of Turkey and Babel and places like that, this is what he looked like in his mosaic. Yes, I colored it in with some highlighters because my colored printer wasn't working. But I think I did a pretty good job, right? It kind of looks like a color mosaic, and the mosaic is beautiful, actually. Notice he's wearing some interesting earrings, top and bottom. Okay, this is not a course in mosaics, which maybe we should do a little lecture on that. But right now, there's a mosaic of Justinian. Justinian was in the East. He was rich. He was wealthy. He was smart. He decided, I'm going to put together a bunch of all the law that's been sort of straggling around in the past 400 years. He puts it together in something called the Digest. Now, what's interesting about the Digest is it does this, and this is fascinating too, is look at this. I'm going to read us. We're going to learn about something here. And you have here lists of jurists and thinkers and academics, Roman academics, and sometimes emperors, and what they said about a subject. So they have the name, and then they have the idea. For instance, the part that I wanted to read to discuss today was something in the Digest about when a governor comes to the new territory, and how he has to come and how he has to announce himself, and as he permitted to send in someone before his arrival. Some people say yes, and some people say no. you can understand the problem. So Ulpian, his name is Ulpian, not to be confused with Ulpun, but Ulpian probably means similar things, says that every proconsul, every governor has to come by sea. Can you imagine? You can't come by land. You have to come by sea, and you have to land in a certain port. For many reasons, it's interesting. Then he says that if somebody wanted to come in advance, they can, but only on the heels of that emperor and not a long time before. The one underneath him, Papinian, says in a little remark that it's sometimes possible for a governor to delegate the functions to someone else, even though he hasn't arrived in the province. And the problem is sometimes that they suffer some unavoidable delay on his journey, but he has to come close by. So here are two conflicting ideas about how to come and govern. And that's what they did all the way through.